I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on the Spotlight Network, I'm joined by Gunnar Siréus, author of an amazing book, The Full Stack Developer's Playbook, From AI to Microservices and Kubernetes. In this comprehensive guide, the author demystifies .NET full stack programming, providing hands-on examples that simplify complex concepts for developers at all levels. Whether you're a newcomer or a seasoned coder, his insights make tackling full stack development engaging and accessible. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Prime 7 Media for helping us put him in the spotlight today, and we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his wonderful book. The links are below this interview. Gunnar, thank you so much for joining me here today. How are you?
Oh, well, I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me. I truly appreciate this opportunity to talk about my book today. And then I will also I will say that I hope the audience will forgive my strange pronunciation, because as you can hear, I don't have English as native language.
I understand you perfectly. I don't think our listeners will have a problem either. I know you're from Sweden, and Swedish is probably your native language. Let's talk about a little bit about who you are, your background.
Okay, I'm just a regular guy from Sweden. I live in Stockholm with my family, my wife, and our two daughters, who are 11 and 15. For work, I've been working in the tech industry for more than 40 years now, and as a programmer for about 25 years.
Wonderful, wonderful. Tell us a little bit about the book. What's it about?
Well, the book is about programming, and it's part of the category Programming Books with Practical Code Examples. It's written by a programmer for other programmers, so it's very technical. This can make it hard to talk about with people who don't know much about programming. And after listening to some of the past interviews on this channel, I noticed that my book is pretty different from what you usually discussed here. I really hope there are some programmers watching today.
I hope there's some programmers watching today too, because I think this book will be very, very helpful to them. Let's talk about full stack developer. What's it all about?
Well, when it comes to programming, there's a ton of technologies and systems out there. You probably heard people talk about Microsoft programming and open source programming. Microsoft programming usually involves using tools and tech created by Microsoft, like .NET, C#, Visual Studio, and Microsoft SQL Server. These tools help you build a variety of apps, from web apps, desktop programs, and to cloud services. No, open source is a broader category. It covers all kinds of technologies and tools that developers can use and customize for free. Think popular languages like Python and JavaScript, and frameworks like React, Angular, and Vue. And what's interesting is that Microsoft has become a big player in the open source world too. For instance, .NET itself is now open source. And I got into Microsoft programming about 15 years ago. I started with SQL for database work, using Microsoft Access and SQL Server. Over the years, I learned .NET and C# for backend development, and picked up front-end programming with JavaScript and frameworks like React, Angular, Vue, and Blazor. Being a .NET full-stack developer means you can work on both the front-end, what users see and interact with, and backend, including databases and everything behind the scenes that makes it all function. And you do all of that using Microsoft's .NET technology.
Wonderful, wonderful. Talk to us a little bit about AI and how you use it.
Okay, well, AI, everyone's talking about AI these days, especially ChatGPT. There are all kinds of AI tools out there, but over the past year, ChatGPT has been my go-to. Just to be clear, my book isn't about comparing different AI tools. It's based solely on my experience with ChatGPT, which I use daily, sometimes straight from my phone. For me, ChatGPT has been an incredible assistant from day one. It was impressive a year ago, And now it's even better, constantly improving. No, I know there's a lot of talk about AI being a threat to humanity and how it needs to be regulated, but I don't get into that in my book. I leave that debate to others. What I can say is that I'm confident that ChatGPT isn't a threat to anyone. I see it as a powerful tool that makes me a better programmer. To me, it's like having a super smart assistant who never gets tired and is always available. As long as we have electricity, the internet, and working computers, of course. And as a programmer, my productivity when writing code has increased by 5 to 10 times. Being a systems developer, though, involves much more than just writing code. You actually spend about 90% of your time reading code and only about 10% writing it. But even then, ChatGPT does an amazing job reading code and analyzing it and suggesting improvements. So what can you do with this boost in productivity? For me, it means I can tackle bigger projects that I never have considered before because I just didn't have the time. Now, suddenly, I do have the time. And that's how I've been able to write and publish a book, for example.
Yeah,
One
AI
big
is.
issue.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you had a
Continue.
question.
I was saying AI really is an incredible tool. It's like having a super smart assistant, no doubt, and somebody you can make a request of over and over again too, which is wonderful as well. Do you want to talk to us a little bit about what a microservice is?
Okay, let's go through the title of the book. What is a microservice? So when we talk about software architecture today, there's been a big shift from the old monolithic style to a more modern approach called microservice architecture. Monolithic architecture is the traditional app setup where everything is bundled together, making updates, scaling, and flexibility challenging since changing or scaling one part affects the whole system. Now, with microservices, things work a bit differently. The app is broken down into smaller, independent pieces called microservices. Each microservice can be developed, deployed, and maintained separately, which makes life a lot easier. Every microservice focuses on doing just one main job and talks to the others through well-defined APIs, like RESTful APIs if you're using .NET. The main advantages of microservices: separate updates. Each microservice can run on its own and be updated separately. You can even use different tech stacks if it fits the job. Loose connections. The services are loosely connected, so changing one doesn't mess up the others, giving you more flexibility. Targeted scaling. You only scale the parts of the app that need it, making it more efficient use of resources. Tech options. Developers have the freedom to choose different tools and languages for different services. For example, one microservice might run on .NET and another on Java.
Wonderful. Kubernetes. Talk to us a little bit about Kubernetes.
Okay, Kubernetes, that relates to Docker and Docker containerization, which is a way to package an app so that it runs exactly the same no matter where it's being used. Here's an easy way to picture it. Think about a shipping container. In real life, you use shipping containers to move things like toys, furniture, or food. No matter where that container goes, it keeps everything inside safe and organized. Now, what's a Docker container? It's like a digital version of that shipping container, but for software. It holds everything an app needs to work properly, like the code, tools, and settings. So the app runs the same on any computer, whether it's your laptop, a server, or in the cloud. And why is this helpful? Because sometimes an app works fine on one computer, but has issues on another because the settings are different. Docker containers solve this by bundling everything together, keeping it safe and consistent, just like a shipping container does with its cargo. So Docker containerization makes it easy to move apps around and ensures they work the same way everywhere. It keeps things neat and organized, just like real shipping containers do. Now let's talk about Docker orchestration with Kubernetes. which is all about making sure multiple apps run smoothly together. Think of it like a huge playground with lots of games happening at the same time. Basketball, skateboarding, soccer. Each game needs its own space, and there need to be rules so everything stays organized. Docker is like having a bunch of toy boxes, each one holding what's needed for a specific game. One box might have all the soccer gear, while another has everything for a board game. These boxes keep things tidy so each game or app can run in its own space without getting mixed up with the others. So what's Kubernetes? It's like the playground manager. It makes sure there's enough room for each game and figures out where new games should go when more players show up. It also watches over everything to make sure things are running smoothly. If a game runs out of players or something goes wrong, the playground manager steps in to fix it or starts a new game. Docker creates the toy boxes or containers with the apps inside, and Kubernetes makes sure everything runs smoothly. It ensures that apps have what they need, and if one stops, Kubernetes can restart it automatically. In short, Docker orchestration with Kubernetes is like having an organized playground manager who makes sure all the games run smoothly and nothing gets too chaotic.
Wonderful. That explains the book title. Tell us a little bit more about the content.
Yes, okay, the content. The first chapters of the book are all about building the front end of a website. I put together 5 starter kit apps for this, covering React, Angular, Vue, and Blazor. These kits are simple and come with 2 pages, a presentation page and a page for 1 or more photo albums. Now, if you are logged in, you can add or remove albums and photos, but if you are not logged in, you can still look at all the albums and the photos. You just won't be able to make any changes. On the album page, you'll see all the albums listed. Just click on any album to view the photos inside. And when you click on the photo, it will open up larger, and then you can even download it if you'd liked. The design is pretty straightforward, so there's definitely room to customize and make it look even better. The first part of the book dives into building the front end and creating great user experience using 5 different starter kits, but it doesn't stop there. To really become a full-stack developer, you need to know what's happening behind the scenes. So in the rest of the book, I take you deeper into the core elements that drive modern applications. I guide you from designing interactive front-end pages to explaining the backbone that supports them, starting with showing some microservices and how they interact. This sets the stage for understanding how application can scale and handle complexity. Next, I get into containerization with Docker, showing how you can package application to run consistently anywhere. Then I move on to Docker orchestration with Docker Compose and Kubernetes, so you can see how to manage those containers on a larger scale. To complete the picture, I cover essential database management with SQLite and SQL Server, ensuring data flows smoothly. And finally, I dive into broadcast messaging versus point-to-point messaging, showing how different communication patterns affect how applications communicate. Each chapter builds on the one before with practical, real-world examples that follow my core belief. The truth can only be found in one place, the code itself.
Amazing, very comprehensive in its scope, no doubt. Your book covers a vast amount of information, useful, actionable information. What do you hope people take away from reading your book?
Well, I hope they, after reading the book, people don't just see programming as code on a screen, but as a cool mix of creativity and logic. I want readers to feel that excitement, that sense of fun and curiosity that makes programming so rewarding. If they get those aha moments when something complicated suddenly makes sense, or pick up some new tricks to solve problems in their own projects, then I know the book did its job.
Yeah.
More than anything, I want them to see programming as an adventure, one full of learning, exploring, and tackling challenges head on.
Programming is extremely creative. It really is a blank canvas. You have the tools to create anything you want, anything you like, anything you can dream of. So it is such a wonderful, imaginative pursuit, in addition to being, a mathematical and scientific pursuit as well. Are you planning on writing other books in the future?
Well, this is my first book, and it's been quite a journey. I
Yeah.
actually started a few chapters about 7 years ago, so bringing it to life has been a long and rewarding process. And writing this book has opened my eyes to the joy of sharing knowledge in a more structured way. So I definitely see myself continuing down this path. In the near future, I'm aiming to expand with more hands-on code examples, especially focusing on React. The goal is to keep adding value for developers, both new and experienced, by sharing practical, real-world solutions that they can use and build on.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think it's an important work you've created, and I think it'll be extremely useful to developers and programmers and coders and beyond. Talk to us a little bit about what you like to do for fun, your hobbies, your interests, and so forth.
Well, in my free time, I really enjoy hanging out with my wife and kids, and we have a lot of fun together, like playing tennis every Saturday. It's become a bit of tradition for us. Staying active is important to me, so I keep in shape by running and going to the gym. And in our area, there's a 5 kilometer run every Saturday morning at 9:30 called Park Run. It's a concept from England that's spreading around the world. I think there is a park run in Milwaukee too. Do you know that?
I know there are certain park runs in different cities around America, and they do sound like great ways to have some fun and stay fit. I love tennis also. I play all the time, but my knees are giving out. So I think I got to stick to the elliptical a little bit. But it's great that you keep active. It's great for your mind, body, heart, and soul for sure. You worked on this book for years. What was it like finally finishing it?
Well, it was a mix of relief, pride, and a sense of accomplishment.
Mhm.
It's been quite a journey from starting those first chapters years ago to seeing it come together as a complete guide for aspiring full stack developers. But in some ways, it feels like just the beginning. As I mentioned, I'm already thinking ahead to adding more content. So while the book is out there now, this project still feels very much alive. I'm excited to keep evolving it and making sure it stays practical and relevant for developers looking to expand their skills.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Did you ever think you would be an author?
Well, I don't know if I'm an author, actually. I'm an amateur author. Uh, well, back in 2017, I started writing articles with accompanying code about programming for a site aimed at developers. Over time, I wrote 7 articles, and then they were all well received. And then a couple of years ago, I began noticing ads about how easy it was to publish books on Amazon. And that's when the idea for a book came to life. I didn't have a grand plan when I started. I just took it step by step, one idea at a time. 3 of those early articles in a much improved form became the foundation for the book. With those as a starting point, I began writing both text and the code almost a year ago. So I never planned more than about 2 weeks ahead. So it's wild to think that 4 weeks ago, I hadn't even heard of Prime 7 Media, and now here I am.
Yeah,
So I've always been
exactly.
interested. I've always been interested in personal growth, and now I know that sometimes you need to step outside your comfort zone. And at the moment, I'm far out from my comfort zone.
Well, I always say I'm most comfortable outside of my comfort zone. So I think that's the best way to grow, to stretch, and become the person you were meant to be. Before we leave you today, anything else you'd like to add? Anything else you'd like our audience and viewers to know? Anything else you'd like to tell us about the book?
Okay, so I can tell you about my book's goal is to show that programming is fun and all about creativity. And when I was young as a teen, I dreamed of being a rock musician and playing in a band. But life led me to become a developer instead. And honestly, it's just as fulfilling and way easier than being a rock star. Plus, working with other developers feels a lot like playing in a band. With my book, I hope to connect with other programmers to exchange ideas. Also, I'm currently available for new projects. So if you need help with system development, drop me an email and we can chat about it.
Wonderful. Well, I think you're a rock star of developers. So I think you've merged the two fields, which is wonderful. And this book is kind of the developer's Bible, and it is called The Full Stack Developer's Playbook, From AI to Microservices and Kubernetes. It is a comprehensive guide, and in it, the author demystifies .NET full stack programming, providing hands-on examples that simplify complex concepts for developers at every level. Whether you're a newcomer or a seasoned coder, his insights make tackling full stack development engaging and accessible. Gunnar, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Okay, thank you, Logan.
Great having you on the show. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.